Become who you are. This isn't advice, it's a threat. Because becoming who you are requires destroying who you think you should be. 3 years ago, I was having what looked like a successful breakdown. Perfect job, great relationship, beautiful apartment. Everyone kept telling me how lucky I was, and I kept wondering why I felt like I was suffocating in someone else's life. The breaking point came during a work celebration where I found myself mechanically nodding through conversations about quarterly projections while internally screaming. I realized I'd become incredibly skilled at being someone I didn't recognize. The comfortable life I'd built felt like a beautiful prison where I was both the guard and the prisoner. Have you ever felt successful and empty at the same time? Like you're winning a game you never agreed to play? What if that restlessness isn't personal failure? What if it's your authentic self trying to break free from a life that fits everyone's expectations except your own? Chapter 2. The Great Authenticity Factory. We live in the age of mass-produced meaning. Scroll through LinkedIn and watch thousands of people describe their passion using identical corporate speak. Browse Instagram and see everyone curating their authentic self with the same Valencia filter. Visit any bookstore and find shelves promising to help you find your purpose, as if meaning were something you could Amazon Prime to your door. Modern culture has turned self-discovery into a consumer product. We're told to find our passion, follow our bliss, discover our why, preferably by purchasing the right course, reading the right book, or following the right guru. It's like McDonald's, but for meaning, fast, convenient, and ultimately unsatisfying. Have you noticed how the most successful people often seem the most miserable? I've met CEOs who've built empires yet feel completely hollow inside. Social media influencers with millions of followers who can't figure out who they are when the camera's off. High achievers who've checked every societal box yet still wake up asking, "Is this it?" This isn't coincidence. It's the inevitable result of seeking meaning through external validation rather than internal creation. We've been trained to look for our purpose instead of creating it, to discover who we are instead of deciding who we become. The digital age has turned this into performance art. Dating apps reduce human connection to a swipe based on 6 photos and a witty bio. Professional networks transform careers into personal brands. Social media makes us curators of our own highlight reels, performing authenticity rather than living it. But here's what's really happening. We've mistaken the assembly line for authentic living. The life scripts our culture provides, school, career, relationship, house, kids, retirement, death, aren't natural laws. They're recent inventions that worked for some people at some point in history, but they're failing spectacularly for most people right now. Nietzsche saw this coming. He understood that when traditional meaning-making structures collapse, what he called the death of God, people either create new meaning or descend into what he termed nihilism. The gray zone of going through the motions without any real investment in the outcome. Sound familiar? Welcome to the Authenticity Factory, where everyone's producing identical versions of uniqueness. Chapter 3. The Will to Power, Not What You Think. Most people completely butcher Nietzsche's concept of will to power. They think it means becoming a ruthless CEO, accumulating wealth, or dominating others. But Nietzsche wasn't describing the drive to control external circumstances. He was revealing the fundamental force behind all authentic self-creation. Will to power is your deepest psychological drive to become more than you currently are. It's the force that pushes you beyond comfort, beyond safety, beyond the known quantities of your current identity. It's not about power over others. It's about power over your own limitations. Think about the moments when you felt most alive. Were you following instructions or creating something uniquely yours? Were you seeking approval or expressing something that demanded expression regardless of reception. That electric feeling of aliveness, that was your will to power in action. But here's where it gets psychologically complex. Actualizing your will to power requires dismantling parts of yourself you've grown attached to. It means questioning beliefs you've never questioned, abandoning identities that no longer serve you, disappointing people whose approval you've desperately sought. Have you ever noticed how terrifying it is to consider changing something fundamental about your life, even when you know it's not working? That terror isn't protecting you from danger. It's protecting your current identity from growth. The psychological mechanism works like this. Every time you choose comfort over growth, safety over authenticity, approval over self-expression, you weaken your will to power. You train yourself to seek external validation rather than create internal meaning. Over time, this creates what Nietzsche called resentment, a deep, corrosive anger at life itself for not providing the meaning you think it owes you. Contemporary psychology recognizes this pattern as the difference between authentic living and contingent self-worth. Research consistently shows that people who act from their core values, rather than seeking external validation, report higher life satisfaction, better relationships, and greater resilience. But Nietzsche went deeper. He understood that authenticity isn't something you find buried inside yourself like buried treasure. It's something you create through an ongoing process of becoming. You don't discover your true self. You forge it through choices, struggles, and continuous self-overcoming. This is why "become who you are" sounds paradoxical. You become who you are by choosing who you become. It's not a destination, it's a creative direction. Chapter 4. Your Inner Übermensch. Nietzsche's Übermensch, criminally mistranslated as Superman, isn't about becoming superior to others. It's about becoming superior to your previous self. The Übermensch is someone who has moved beyond resentment, beyond dependence on external meaning-making structures, beyond the comfortable prison of inherited values. The Übermensch creates values instead of inheriting them, makes meaning instead of seeking it, embraces becoming instead of clinging to being. You've probably met someone like this. They seem to operate by different rules than everyone else. Not because they're rebellious or contrarian, but because they've transcended the usual anxieties about approval, success, and social positioning. They pursue projects that matter to them regardless of market demand. They form relationships based on genuine connection rather than social advantage. They have access to an internal compass that guides them through uncertainty. What you were witnessing was someone living closer to their Übermensch nature, someone who had learned to create meaning rather than consume it. But this transformation isn't a comfortable self-help journey. It requires what Nietzsche called self-overcoming, repeatedly transcending your current limitations, beliefs, and identities. This means becoming comfortable with destroying parts of yourself that no longer serve your becoming. Here's a practical exercise. Think about your most cherished beliefs about yourself. Now ask, which of these beliefs are actually limiting my growth? Which parts of my current identity would I need to release to become who I'm capable of becoming? Most people recoil from these questions because change threatens their current sense of self. But the Übermensch mindset embraces this creative destruction as fuel for authentic becoming. Consider your relationship with discomfort. When faced with an opportunity that would require significant growth, do you lean in or find reasons to avoid it? When you receive feedback that challenges your self-concept, do you get defensive or curious? When you feel pulled towards something meaningful but uncertain, do you follow it or choose safety? Your answers reveal how developed your will to power has become, and how close you are to living as your own Übermensch. What might be possible if you treated your current limitations not as permanent features of who you are, but as temporary obstacles to who you're becoming. Chapter 5. The Eternal Return Reality Check. Nietzsche proposed the most psychologically revealing thought experiment in philosophy. Imagine you had to live your exact life, every moment, every choice, every experience, repeatedly for eternity. Would you embrace this eternal return or recoil in horror? This isn't meant as literal metaphysics, it's a diagnostic tool for authentic living. If the thought of repeating your life fills you with dread, you're living someone else's version of meaning. If it fills you with genuine acceptance, you're approaching authentic self-creation. The eternal return test reveals something brutal about modern life. Most people are living lives they wouldn't choose to repeat once, let alone eternally. They're caught in patterns of seeking meaning through external achievements that never quite deliver the fulfillment they promise. But when you shift from seeking meaning to creating it, the entire game changes. Your work becomes an expression of your values rather than a means to validation. Your relationships become opportunities for mutual growth rather than sources of security. Your challenges become raw material for becoming rather than obstacles to happiness. Here's the practical application. Look at your typical Tuesday. If you had to live that exact day, including your thoughts, emotions, choices, and experiences, for eternity, how would you feel? What would you change? What would you embrace more fully? This isn't about perfecting your life or eliminating all discomfort. It's about aligning your daily reality with your deepest values and authentic expression. The Übermensch doesn't live a perfect life. They live a life so aligned with their will to power that they would choose it again and again. The eternal return also reveals why chasing happiness as a primary goal often leads to misery. Happiness is a byproduct of meaningful action, not a destination. When you focus on creating value, expressing authentically, and continuously becoming more than you were, fulfillment emerges naturally. Contemporary research on eudaimonic well-being supports this understanding. Studies show that meaning-focused living produces more lasting satisfaction than pleasure-focused living. People who pursue growth, contribution, and authentic expression report higher life satisfaction than those chasing comfort and external validation. Have you ever noticed that your happiest moments often come not from getting what you wanted, but from becoming more capable of creating what matters to you? Chapter 6. The Inconvenient Truth About Authenticity. Here's what the authenticity industrial complex won't tell you. Becoming who you are might make you incompatible with the life you've built and the people in it. Authentic living isn't always socially convenient, financially optimal, or relationship-friendly. The self-help industry sells authenticity as a path to better everything: more success, deeper relationships, greater happiness. It's like a spiritual pyramid scheme. Just be yourself and watch the universe reward you with all your desires. But Nietzsche understood that authentic becoming often leads through periods of isolation, uncertainty, and social friction. When you stop performing the version of yourself that others expect, some relationships won't survive the transition. When you pursue work that aligns with your values rather than maximizes your income, your bank account might notice. When you express opinions that emerge from genuine thought rather than social acceptability, some people will be uncomfortable. This is why most people choose comfortable inauthenticity over difficult growth. It's easier to maintain relationships built on false premises than risk losing them by becoming genuine. Safer to pursue goals that others understand than follow internal drives that seem inexplicable to everyone around you. But here's the deeper truth that makes the risk worthwhile. Relationships and achievements built on your authentic self are infinitely more satisfying and sustainable than those built on performance. Work that emerges from genuine interest feels meaningful in ways that external validation never can. People who appreciate your authentic expression make better companions than those who only liked your persona. Have you ever caught yourself keeping track of what you're supposed to think, feel, or want in different situations? The exhaustion of maintaining an inauthentic life might be the greatest source of modern fatigue. The path of becoming requires what I call quiet courage. Not the dramatic courage of heroic acts, but the daily courage of small authenticity. The courage to express unpopular opinions. The courage to pursue interests others don't understand. The courage to change direction when your current path no longer serves your becoming. Nietzsche called this amor fati, love of fate. Not passive acceptance of whatever happens, but active embrace of your circumstances as raw material for self-creation. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the question becomes, "How can I use this for my becoming?" What would become possible if you treated every challenge as fuel for your authentic development, rather than evidence that something's wrong? Chapter 7. Living the Uncomfortable Question. I need to be honest with you. I haven't mastered this path of becoming. The tension between who I am and who I'm becoming remains a daily reality. The temptation to seek external validation instead of creating internal meaning still shows up regularly. The comfort of inherited meaning structures still calls to me when uncertainty feels overwhelming. But I've discovered something that changes everything. This tension isn't a problem to solve. It's the creative force of authentic living. The discomfort of becoming isn't something to eliminate, but something to embrace as evidence that you're growing, rather than just existing. What I can offer from my ongoing experiment is this: the meaning you create through your own becoming satisfies in ways that found meaning never can. The identity you forge through conscious choice feels more genuine than any identity inherited from culture, family, or circumstance. The life you build according to your own values provides fulfillment that exceeds any life designed by others' expectations. This doesn't mean becoming selfish or inconsiderate. It means becoming so authentically yourself that your contributions to others emerge from genuine expression rather than obligation or performance. It means loving others from the fullness of your authentic being rather than the emptiness of people-pleasing. The process never ends. There's no final destination where you've become who you are once and for all. Each stage of becoming reveals new possibilities for further growth. Each limitation transcended reveals new limitations to address. Each level of authenticity achieved opens awareness to deeper levels of genuine expression. Your work, our work, is to remain curious about our own becoming. To treat life as an ongoing experiment in authentic expression. To use each challenge as raw material for self-creation. To love our fate not because it's perfect, but because it's uniquely ours to transform. The pain of becoming isn't something to cure. It's something to embrace as evidence that you're alive, growing, and creating meaning in a world full of manufactured authenticity. Your genuine becoming is both a personal triumph and a cultural contribution. Here's what I'm curious about. What part of your current life would you need to release to make room for who you're becoming? What inherited meaning are you ready to replace with your own creation? If this exploration resonated with you, if you felt that familiar discomfort of recognizing yourself in these ideas, leave a comment sharing one belief about yourself that you're ready to question. Your willingness to examine your own assumptions is exactly the kind of courage this work requires. And if you're interested in continuing this journey of psychological and philosophical exploration, subscribe to Keys to the Psyche. We're building a community of people committed to the difficult, necessary work of becoming who we are, rather than who we think we should be. The question isn't whether you'll experience the pain of becoming. It's whether you'll use it as fuel for authentic self-creation or waste it seeking comfort in meanings that were never truly yours. What you do with this understanding is entirely up to you. but that part of you that felt the pull toward authentic becoming despite its difficulty. That's your will to power calling you toward who you're meant to become. And that's worth whatever discomfort the journey requires.